Welcome to the Noble Bereans video channel. I'm your host, Steve Sanders. Now, we have just spent 8 episodes with Daniel. We concluded that just a couple of weeks ago. That was a man who navigated exile, political pressure, a fiery furnace, a lion's den, and cosmic visions of kingdoms rising and falling. And through all of it, one thing never changed: Daniel's posture before God. His open window, his knees on the floor 3 times a day, praying and giving thanks. That posture wasn't a habit, it was a foundation, and it kept him oriented when everything around him was chaos. So here's the question I want to sit with today. What does that kind of foundation actually look like for us? Where does that depth come from, and what gets in the way of it? Now, I want to take you to a story that I think you already know: 2 sisters, 1 house, and 1 very inconvenient dinner guest, and a moment that most sermons had read completely wrong. So I want to set this up by reading from Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. Let's go there now. As they traveled along, he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him. And she had a sister named Mary, who also sat at the feet of Jesus and was listening to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much preparation, so she approached and said, "Lord, is it not a concern to you that my sister has left me alone to make preparations? Then tell her that she should help me." But the Lord answered and said to her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but few things are necessary, or only one thing. For Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." Jesus arrives at the home of Martha and Mary. In first century Jewish culture, having a rabbi visit your home was an enormous honor, and it came with equally enormous obligations. Hospitality wasn't just courtesy, it was covenant. You fed your guest, you served your guest, you protected your guest. This was really serious business. Now, Martha understood that. She's working. The Greek word that Luke uses here is parasipato. It literally means to be pulled around in all directions, to be scattered by many things. This isn't a woman just casually puttering around in the kitchen. She's hustling, she's stressed, and she's doing exactly what every responsible host in her culture was expected to do. Meanwhile, Mary is sitting at Jesus' feet. And here's the detail that changes everything. In Jewish culture, sitting at a rabbi's feet was the posture of a disciple. This is how you learned. This wasn't passive religious daydreaming. Mary was claiming the position of a student, of someone who intended to take this seriously. When Martha asked Jesus to send Mary to help, his response is careful. He doesn't rebuke her service. He says she is worried and troubled about many things. Merimna, the same word, anxious, pulled in all directions. But Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her. He's not saying work is bad. He's saying anxiety is the problem, and contemplative attention is the solution. All right, so the pattern repeats itself in John chapter 12, verses 1 through 8. We'll go read that now. Then 6 days before Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they made him a dinner there, and Martha was serving, but Lazarus was one of the ones reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took a pound of ointment, a very valuable genuine nard, and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the ointment. Can you imagine that, by the way? The smell that's going on right there? But Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, the one who was going to betray him, said, "Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" Now, he said this not because he was concerned about the poor, but because he was a thief, and having the money box, he used to steal what was put into it. So Jesus said, "Leave her alone, so that she may keep it for a day of my preparation for burial. For you have the poor with you always, but you do not always have me." Most people treat Luke 10 as a standalone story. Devotion versus distraction. Choose worship over work. End of lesson. But the story doesn't end there. Let's turn to John 12, just days before the crucifixion. Jesus is back in Bethany. Same family, same dynamic. Martha is serving. The same root word as the word for deacon. The same faithful, necessary, honorable work that she was always doing. And Mary takes a pound of pure nard, very costly, worth roughly a year's wages, and anoints Jesus' feet with it, wiping them with her hair. Judas objects. This is wasteful, impractical. This perfume could have been sold and the money given to the poor. Jesus defends Mary again. He says she has kept this for the day of his burial. She understood something that even the disciples hadn't grasped. Mary understood that Jesus was going to die. She perceived it and she responded with extravagant, costly worship while everyone else was still arguing about the economics. This is the pattern. Martha serves faithfully both times. Mary moves from listening to worship that anticipates burial. Her understanding of who Jesus is has deepened so profoundly that perhaps she perceives things others simply cannot see. So this reveals that contemplation produces perception. This is not an argument against service. Martha's work is honorable. Again, the word describing what she did is the same word used for deacons or for ministry. What Jesus is after is the sequence, the foundation, because without contemplative intimacy with Christ, you can serve your whole life and still miss what he's actually doing. Mary didn't get smarter between Luke 10 and John 12. She became more formed, more shaped by sustained attention to Jesus, and that formation may have given her eyes to see what was coming when no one else could. Most of us are professional Marthas. Now, that's not an insult. It's a description. We serve in our churches. We lead our families. We represent our faith in our workplaces. We're doing real, meaningful things, but we're doing them from a place of anxiety, not depth. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, he wasn't scrambling. He wasn't reactive. He'd been practicing stillness and prayer for so long that this foundation held when everything else collapsed. Now, this isn't a personality type. This is a formed person. Mary's story shows us how that formation happens. You sit at his feet, you listen, you return, and over time, the listening produces worship, and the worship produces perception, and the perception produces witness. Now, here's why this matters to us as ambassadors. You can't accurately represent someone you don't know intimately. That is just a fact. We talk a lot about reflecting Christ well here, but think about what that requires. To represent someone accurately, to carry their name, their character, and their heart into a situation, you have to know them, not just know about them, not just know about their teachings. You have to have spent time with them. Mary may have known exactly what was coming. She may have been anointing Jesus for burial deliberately because she had spent enough time at his feet to understand what he was walking toward. She could represent his heart in that moment, extravagant sacrificial love, because she had been shaped by it. That's the kind of ambassador we're called to be, not just people who know Christian facts and apply Christian principles, people who have spent enough time with Jesus that we start to perceive what he perceives and love what he loves. My challenge for you this week is simple. Practice Mary's posture. Set aside 15 minutes, not for Bible study, not for journaling, not for prayer requests, just to sit at his feet. Read one passage slowly and ask one question. Jesus, what do you want me to see here? And then listen. You're going to be tempted to feel that silence, but don't. Don't feel it immediately. Don't rush to application. Let the contemplation do what contemplation does. Let it form you. Now, next week, we're going to get practical about how this foundation changes the way we represent Christ in our daily lives. But for this week, start with the posture. I'm Steve Sanders. Remember to go out there this week and reflect him well. God bless.